Did you just tell me to calm down? Do you know who I am?
That slap just became the most expensive mistake your family has ever made.
You're just an Uber driver.
Not for much longer.
The evening rush had turned downtown traffic into a sea of red brake lights. Inside a clean but modest black sedan, the silence was broken by the impatient tapping of manicured fingernails against the leather armrest. Victoria Ashford glanced at her diamond watch and let out an irritated sigh. "Are you serious?" she snapped. "We've barely moved in 5 minutes." Keeping both hands on the steering wheel, Damian answered without taking his eyes off the road. "The intersection ahead is blocked. We'll start moving as soon as traffic clears." Victoria scoffed. "I have the biggest charity gala of the year to attend. Every important person in this city is waiting for me." Damian nodded politely. "I understand, but running the red light won't get us there any faster." Victoria leaned forward. "Then take the shoulder." "I can't, it's illegal." "Drive on the sidewalk." "I won't risk someone's life." Her expression hardened. "So you're choosing strangers over your customer?" "I'm choosing to get us there safely." Victoria laughed bitterly. "You Uber drivers always think you're philosophers." Damian remained calm. "I'm just trying to do my job." The car finally rolled forward a few feet before another line of traffic stopped them again. Victoria slammed her designer handbag onto the seat. "This is unbelievable." She pointed toward the windshield. "I said drive." Damian's voice stayed level. "Ms. Ashford." He paused just long enough to meet her eyes in the rearview mirror. "Please calm down." Her face flushed with anger. "Did you just tell me to calm down? Do you know who I am?" Before Damian could answer, smack! Her hand struck his face with a sharp crack. The entire car fell silent. Outside, 2 pedestrians stopped and stared through the window. A cyclist slowed down. Another driver lowered his window in disbelief. Damian didn't raise his voice. He didn't argue. He slowly turned his head toward Victoria. His cheek had already begun to redden. For a long moment he simply looked at her. Then in the calmest voice imaginable he said, "That slap just became the most expensive mistake your family has ever made." Victoria burst into laughter. "You!" She looked around the car with open mockery. "You're an Uber driver." Without another word, Damian unlocked his phone. He tapped one contact. Victoria folded her arms. "What are you going to do? Report me?" Damian lifted the phone to his ear. His voice was quiet. "Not for much longer." If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to subscribe to Velvet Twist Stories for more emotional stories filled with shocking twists and unforgettable endings. And if you're watching, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. I'd love to see how far our Velvet Twist Stories family reaches. The silence inside the car felt heavier than the traffic outside. Victoria folded her arms, completely unbothered. "So," she said with a smug smile, "are you calling Uber to cry about it?" Damian didn't answer. The call connected. A calm female voice came through the speaker. "Good evening, Mr. Blackwood." Victoria rolled her eyes. "Oh, please save the fake professionalism." Damian spoke with the same steady tone he'd used throughout the ride. "Emma, cancel every extension we've given to Ashford Heritage Group." There was a brief pause. Then the woman replied, "Immediately, sir." "Immediately." "And the pending restructuring agreement." "Withdraw it." "What about the emergency credit line?" Damian looked at Victoria through the rearview mirror. "Terminate it." "Understood." The call ended. Victoria stared at him for a second before bursting into laughter. She clapped sarcastically. "Very dramatic." She reached for the door handle. "I almost believed you." Damian quietly locked the phone and placed it back on the dashboard. "You'll understand soon enough." "Oh, I already understand." She opened the door as traffic finally began moving. "I understand that some people confuse imagination with importance." She stepped onto the sidewalk and leaned back into the open door. "Oh, and don't forget your 1-star review." The door slammed shut. Damian watched her disappear into the crowd without saying another word. Across the city, the ballroom of the Grand Regency Hotel glittered beneath enormous crystal chandeliers. Waiters moved elegantly between politicians, celebrities, CEOs, and foreign investors. Victoria walked through the entrance with her usual confidence. The room immediately turned toward her. There she is. The Ashford heiress. She finally made it. Victoria smiled proudly as photographers captured her arrival. She had no idea that 3 floors above the ballroom, a different meeting had just begun. Inside a private executive boardroom, Richard Ashford stood at the head of a long conference table, preparing to finalize the largest expansion in the company's history. His chief financial officer entered in a hurry. Sir. Richard frowned. I said no interruptions. I'm sorry, sir, but something happened. The CFO's face had gone pale. Our emergency credit facility. Richard barely looked up. What about it? It's gone. Richard frowned. What do you mean, gone? The approval was withdrawn. Richard gave a short laugh. That's impossible. The CFO swallowed nervously. So was I, until every other extension disappeared too. Richard's smile faded. Who authorized that? We're trying to find out. Before Richard could respond, another executive rushed into the room. Sir. Now what? Our lead investors are requesting an emergency meeting. A second phone rang. Then a third. Then another. One executive whispered. Our lenders are demanding immediate repayment. The room fell silent. Richard slowly looked around the table. For the first time in years, fear crossed his face. Back downstairs, Victoria accepted a glass of champagne, completely unaware that the foundation beneath her family's fortune had just begun to crack. Across town, Damian parked his car beside a quiet riverside overlook. He stepped out, looked across the city skyline, and took a slow breath. His phone vibrated once. A text from Emma. The dominoes have started falling. Damian stared at the message, then slipped the phone back into his pocket. His expression revealed nothing. Only the faint sadness of a man who never wanted it to come to this. If you're enjoying this story, we'd love to have you join our growing family here on Velvet Twist Stories. Tap subscribe so you never miss our next emotional story filled with shocking twists. And if this story has you hooked so far, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. It's always amazing to see our viewers from around the world. The ballroom buzzed with conversation, but inside the executive suite above it, panic had taken over. Richard Ashford's phone wouldn't stop ringing. One call after another. One cancellation after another. His chief financial officer looked like he'd seen a ghost. Sir, we've just lost our insurance backing. Another executive rushed in. Our overseas partners have suspended every joint project. A third voice followed. Our stock has dropped nearly 20% in less than 30 minutes. Richard slammed both hands onto the conference table. Someone tell me what's happening. The room fell silent. Finally, the CFO swallowed hard. We traced every cancellation to the same source. Richard looked up. Who? The CFO hesitated. Blackwood Capital. Richard's face went blank. No. He grabbed the report and stared at the signature at the bottom of the page. Damian Blackwood. His breathing became uneven. It can't be. Then his eyes widened. The driver. His heart sank. Oh, Victoria. Downstairs, Victoria laughed with guests, posing for photographs as though nothing in the world could touch her. Her phone vibrated. She ignored it. It rang again. And again. Finally, she answered with an annoyed sigh. Dad, I'm busy. Where is he? She frowned. Who? The Uber driver. Victoria laughed. You can't be serious. Richard's voice cracked. Tell me exactly what happened. She shrugged. He was rude, I slapped him. Silence. A silence so deep she pulled the phone away from her ear to check if the call had dropped. Then Richard whispered. We're ruined. The smile disappeared from her face. What are you talking about? You didn't slap an Uber driver. You slapped the man keeping this family alive. The call ended. For the first time that night, Victoria felt fear. Real fear. Minutes later, the grand entrance doors opened. Every conversation stopped. Damian walked into the ballroom. Not in his driving clothes. He wore a perfectly tailored black tuxedo. Confident. Composed. Without arrogance. The hotel manager hurried to greet him personally. Several CEOs crossed the room to shake his hand. Foreign investors nodded respectfully. Even the mayor smiled and welcomed him. Victoria stood frozen. One of the guests whispered, "That's Damian Blackwood, the founder of Blackwood Capital. I heard he owns half the city's investment portfolio. I didn't know he was attending tonight." Victoria's knees nearly gave way. Richard rushed across the ballroom, ignoring every camera pointed toward him. He stopped in front of Damian. Then, to everyone's shock, one of the wealthiest men in the city lowered his head. "Mr. Blackwood, I'm deeply sorry. My daughter acted without respect. I accept full responsibility." The ballroom fell completely silent. Victoria slowly walked forward. Gone was the confidence. Gone was the pride. Her voice trembled. "I'm sorry. I didn't know who you were." Damian looked at her quietly. Then he asked one simple question. "If I truly had been just an Uber driver." He paused. "Would you still be sorry?" Victoria opened her mouth. No words came. Because they both knew the answer. Damian gave a small, disappointed smile. "I can forgive a mistake. But I can't reward character that only appears after power is revealed." He reached into his jacket, removed a folder, and handed it to Richard. "This isn't your punishment." Richard looked down. It wasn't a lawsuit. It was a complete financial report. Every hidden debt. Every risky investment. Every warning the company had ignored for years. Damian spoke calmly. "Your company didn't collapse because of one phone call. It collapsed because it had been standing on borrowed time. My investment firm simply stopped holding it up." Richard closed his eyes. For the first time, he understood the truth. Their empire hadn't been destroyed. It had already been falling. Damian had only stepped out of the way. 6 months later, Victoria stood behind the counter of a small neighborhood cafe. No designer dress. No assistants. No flashing cameras. Just an honest job. An elderly customer accidentally spilled his coffee. Without hesitation, Victoria smiled. "It's all right. I'll clean it up." There was no frustration. No pride. Only patience. A few moments later, the cafe door opened. She looked up. "Damian." Their eyes met. For a brief second, neither of them spoke. Victoria walked over. "Good afternoon. What can I get for you?" Her voice was calm. Respectful. Genuine. Damian smiled. "Just a black coffee." She prepared it herself. When she returned, she placed it gently on the table. "Thank you for giving me the chance to learn what money never could." Damian nodded. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to discover who we really are. He stood to leave. On the table sat a generous tip. Victoria picked it up and hurried after him. "Sorry. I can't accept this." Damian smiled. "It's not charity. It's respect." He walked out into the afternoon sunlight. Victoria watched him disappear into the crowd. Then she looked down at the tip in her hand. And smiled. Not because of the money, but because, for the first time in her life, she had earned someone's respect instead of demanding it. If this story touched you, remember this: wealth can open doors, but character determines whether they stay open. Sometimes the smallest act of disrespect can reveal the biggest flaw, and the hardest lessons often become the ones that change us forever. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video, subscribe to Velvet Twist Stories, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next emotional story. We'd also love to hear from you in the comments. Where are you watching from, and what would you have done if you were Damian? Until next time, thank you for being part of the Velvet Twist Stories family.